This is it. This is the final SDR event of 2020. What a year it has been. I'm really excited today that I'm going to be joined by Elaine Tyler, the CEO and founder of Venatrix, London's #1 SDR recruiter, and Shabri Lakhani, who is the CEO and founder of SalesWorks, UK's top performing sales and training development company. So my name's James Ski. I'm the CEO and founder of Sales Confidence, and super excited to have you here today. We've got an action-packed afternoon, and I'm going to turn up the excitement because I always tend to find that the SDRs, BDRs, whatever your title is, you're driving sales for your organization is the most enthusiastic and excitable. If you haven't got a beer or an espresso martini, quickly go grab one. Right, look, this wouldn't be possible without our sponsors. So if you're from one of the sponsors today, give yourself a shout out. Thank you to SalesWorks, the #1 sales engagement platform, and particularly to Shabri's business, SalesWorks and Venatrix, for pulling this together. We've had hundreds and hundreds of nominations, and it's been quite an onerous task to select the final 50. But as well as this final 50, we're also going to have 4 amazing speakers that are going to be introduced momentarily by Shabri and Elaine. So we've got Molly, who's an SDR from Peakon, followed by Charlotte, who is the SDR team leader, Integrate. Then we've got Kim from Judopay, and then we're finishing off with Parnell from Seismic. As I mentioned, there's a bunch of companies that get behind this event. We've definitely had a lot of responses as a result of the support from Aircall, G2, SimilarWeb, Cognizant, Refract, and also Clary and Exactly, and of course Venatrix and SalesWorks. So just before we set off with the speakers, we'd like to have a conversation about why this is so important. No doubt this has been the most difficult year ever for those on the front line driving sales. So I guess it'd be nice to hear a little bit more from you individually, Elaine and Shabri. So if you can just tell us a little bit of a background and then share with us why you think the SDR and BDR role is so important.
Cool, absolutely. Hi, everybody. So for anybody who's not met me before, my name's Elaine Tyler. I'm the founder and CEO of a business called Venatrix, and we specialize in placing SDRs and BDRs into their first position. So I guess the reason why this event is important to me personally is that I love to see the development of not only the SDRs that we place, but people in general who land their first role, and how that initial first 12 to 24 months in a first pass qualification sales role really develops people's personal skills. I think that it as a career opportunity is such a steep learning curve, and therefore I think that this event is important to kind of put a line in the sand and, you know, basically pay recognition to how much people have managed to take on board in that initial 12 months in a new role.
Absolutely. Shabri?
Hi, everyone. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm the founder and CEO of SalesWorks. SalesWorks is a global sales development advisory and training companies, and we work with hundreds of SDRs globally. The reason why this is really important to me is similar to Elaine. I believe that SDRs are the lifeblood of any organization. In high performing teams, when companies get it right, they're generating 57% of pipeline. So you can already see the huge impact that SDRs can have. I actually started as an SDR in my career at Finastra, which is one of the largest fintechs in the world. That was before SDRs were really a thing. But I'm so glad that I started my career there, because I think it really helps you to learn not only a lot about yourself, but a lot about communicating with people, sales, and I feel like it ultimately provided me with the tool set to start my own company. So I'm really excited about today because I've seen the winners, which is exciting, and I think there is such a diverse array of winners that we have there, and it just goes to show how much companies are investing in top talent.
Yeah, that's great. Shout out to, I see Ollie Sharp from Sales Loft. If you haven't considered engagement tool, get in touch. And also Richard from Refract. Everybody now should be recording calls and coaching each other. And some of the comments that we saw a lot in the nominations, actually, when we start thinking about the top 50 that we will be announcing after the speakers, is the fact that there's a lot of individuals that have really mentored and cross-supported individuals this year, particularly where we're all working from home. That initial effort, not just to focus on your own targets, but to support your peers, has never been more important. And we read a lot about that in the nominations. So naturally, recognition is something really important, Elaine, for individuals, especially as they're mapping out their career. Why do you think it's important for the SDR, the BDR function to be recognized in this way?
So I think it's similar almost to when you're trying to actually justify a sale with one of your clients. Nothing speaks more volume than somebody else saying something to recognize your achievements about you. If somebody's taken the time to either put pen to paper, to create a reference for you, to add a recommendation to your LinkedIn, then that obviously shows to other people how much you've touched them with either your help, your service, your sales process, or your achievements internally being recognized by your team. And, for me, I think that either hiring managers or future colleagues put a lot of store by that instead of you perhaps presenting your achievements. So that's why, again, managing to get your name on the list today is a fantastic accolade to you, the fact that people have taken the time out to nominate you.
Absolutely. Shabri?
I think the role's hard, right? I think it's really difficult. And I think it's difficult to have the resilience and have the positive attitude. I think it's important, but I think it's difficult. So what I think stands out from the winners is that positive attitude, that resilience, and that inner drive. And I think that, being able to have a smile on your face from the first call you make on the day to the last call, I think deserves a huge shout out. And I think we can all appreciate that the last 6 months have been really difficult. So I think SDRs working from home in, flats and setting up desks in their bedrooms and still being able to generate pipeline and generate success for the company, I think deserves a huge round of applause, even for those who aren't in the top 50.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think one of the difficulties now is that you don't have an office environment necessarily where you can be heard. And, one of the ways often to stand out in the past was that you could be heard and you could be seen because of your activity. And, there is a populist element to this. There are SDRs and BDRs that promoted themselves, but also the SDR function within their business. And I think that's what I would also say to you, that some of you that maybe didn't get featured today when we announced the results, is you need to represent your function and you need to stand up for yourself and your role and make sure that you're informing your leaders and your business and reminding them of the work that you're doing, because you don't want to be forgotten when we're hidden away in our homes and our private spaces. So make sure you're championing each other. And I definitely saw a huge amount of individuals. There was a trend of basically the top half of the top 50, particularly, where there was clearly an individual in the team that the others were getting behind. So be that champion, be that supporter. Just final question before Elaine, we have you introduce Molly. So Molly, get ready, get on your feet. You're up in a minute. How well have you noticed kind of, SDRs, BDRs, those in their first sales role adapting this year? Have you been positively, surprised or encouraged by how well this function has adapted this year?
Yeah, I certainly have. To think that 6 months ago, a lot of organizations would have fretted, in fact, at the thought of hiring junior people into sales roles and then have them work from home with very little exposure to the team, to now the situation we find ourselves in, where we on a daily basis at Venatrix are speaking to hiring managers looking to potentially add more people into that scenario, I think is an absolute testament to the hard work of people, as Shabri says, in their bedrooms, committing to the cause, not crumbling against the most adverse of circumstances, stripped away potentially from your team and the natural learning that you would achieve via osmosis. seeking, sorting, continuing learning, and making sure that your craft is on top form when buyers are potentially nervous. So yeah, well done everybody who's managed to achieve during this last 6 months.
Yeah, final words, Shabri, before we kick off the main speakers.
I think what I've really loved seeing is SDRs being proactive in the last 6 months. So I've had a number of SDRs reach out to me on LinkedIn, demonstrating intellectual curiosity, owning their personal development plan, and not waiting around. So asking what I recommend they use for, resources. So podcasts, blogs, webinars. And I think that's really important. So I think this period that we're in right now and what you do in this time and how you handle is going to set you apart. And I think the last thing, and Ellie Twigger, who I saw is on here, posted this morning, that there's actually a quarter of SDRs globally who are sharing content. So 65,000 globally, and 16,000 have posted in the last 30 days. And I think that what I encourage you to do if you're in that 75% that isn't sharing content is to think about how you start to build your personal brand, and how to start driving a bit more influence to create intrigue and demand within your prospects.
Awesome. Really great points. And thank you to both of you for supporting and championing this function. I mean, over the last few years that we've been running this, it's been amazing to see how much development and focus has been put on this key function to build software companies. Okay, we're on to the speakers, and then we're going to be followed by a short panel discussion, and then Shabri, Elaine, and I will then walk you through who are the top 50 this year. So Elaine, would you like to introduce Molly, and we'll get her on the screen?
Perfect, yes. So Molly is an enterprise SDR at Peakon, the employee success platform that converts feedback into insights you can put to work. Molly has nearly 18 months experience as an SDR targeting HR leaders in all industries, and most recently has focused on companies with more than 5,000 employees. Molly believes in order to be successful in sales, it's important to leverage internal stakeholders for many reasons. She's going to be sharing some tips on this with us now.
So thanks, Elaine, and to give some context behind my experience, this is actually my okay. This is actually my first role out of uni, and before then I only had a year's experience during my placement, but that wasn't in SaaS, that was in marketing and design, so it was very, very different. But actually then I knew instantly that I wanted to be in sales because I really enjoyed building relationships, not just with prospects, but also internally. Which actually is what I'm talking about today, leveraging all of your internal resources and stakeholders. And I think there's 3 key reasons really why it's important to leverage these, not only to enhance your knowledge of your product or service, also to significantly increase your pipeline generation, but also develop your relationships internally to hopefully get quicker growth. So firstly, as you're probably aware, in order to be a really great SDR, it's really important to understand your product, not just the tools and the features that the product has, but also the benefits and the value that it can bring to organizations that use it. So I actually think it's important not just to use people within sales, but other departments as well, especially customer success. But I'll talk about them afterwards. So I found it really invaluable actually to speak with account executives, to spend more time with them and understand bit by bit and in more detail about our product that we have, and that just means that I understand more than what a customer meeting would be, and this gave me really in-depth understanding of our solution. But then I found it even more helpful to actually repeat it back to a different AE, so then I really understand our value proposition, but also getting feedback so I can develop more. And I actually found that this increased my conversion rate from intro call to demo, which is something that we're trying to focus on a lot more recently. And then with our kind of customer success part, I thought it was really insightful to actually sit with them and understand the process after the company has bought Peakon, because obviously we're just before, but I actually think it's helpful to know, like, what does the implementation look like? How easy is it to integrate? What success have they seen? The success stories, but also the ROI and what the benefit actually is to the customers. Our CRO, Neil Ryland, always says there's 2 S's in SaaS. Never underestimate how important service is to people. And just being able to understand that onboarding process and being able to articulate it more clearly, I think that's definitely helped me with also my conversion rates too. And then secondly, with the increasing pipeline, I know we've all spoken about this today, so I've definitely found it a lot more challenging in 2020 to outbound. So it's been really important for me to kind of leverage everything I have, and it's been increasingly important to be more creative. So I've actually found working with C-suite and founders to do exec emails really actually has been successful. So I wanted to share some examples with you guys that's worked well for me. So there's 2 key reasons why I would typically use someone within our C-suite. The first one is if I've tried every angle and I just can't get anywhere else. Or the second one, if I think that there's a particular prospect who I think would actually find it useful to hear from one of our leaders. So an example of that is Peakon's ideal target profile, as Elaine said, is more towards HR. So over the pandemic, when organizations started returning to work, I would send an email from our HR leader to their HR leader, not to just discuss kind of like the support that Peakon can bring, but also for them to actually share best practices, because they're in the same field and probably having the same struggles. And I saw this approach worked really nicely because it wasn't just a sales pitch, it was also that value added piece as well. So then the other angle is if I've literally tried everything and I can't get a meeting, but there's a really good reason why. So I know that they're reviewing providers, or I've seen something in the news I genuinely think Peakon could support them with, or there's a good use case because a similar organization are using Peakon. I'll use that information and then send an email from our C-suite to their C-suite. The structure I think is best to follow is, or that's been working well for me, is just an intro to the C-suite, intro to Peakon, why they're particularly reaching out, the benefit Peakon can bring, and kind of the value to them. I always think it's really important to hone in on the value, because they're not going to buy Peakon for the features, they're going to buy Peakon that the features are bringing like the outcome. So I definitely recommend kind of like focusing on that. And obviously then if you're asking founders, C-suite, CEO to be doing this for you, they are going to be incredibly busy. So I found it really important to be as straightforward for them as possible. So I try and give them as much information as I can with the email, the company, the name, the role, context, also their LinkedIn page in case they wanted to do a little bit of research as well. And I found sometimes it's just a C-suite email that the prospect needs to look into the provider to see what we can give them. And our EA, Laura, shout out to Laura, she's been an absolute legend in this. She's helped us send them out. So I would definitely recommend trying to leverage your EA to help you make it as simple as possible for your C-suite. And then lastly, developing your relationships. I just think it's so key. An annoying personality trait of mine, I like to be liked by everyone, but I actually think it's been positive for me throughout my time here. I do think people underestimate just how important it is for you to have internal relationships, especially within your department. With AEs, it's not just for the knowledge, but realistically, they are going to be your best friend when promotion opportunities come up. And this is something that I think can be equally beneficial. So, I mean, we all know account executives want the best ops and only the best ops. Otherwise, but if you are known as the SDR who gives the most well-qualified ops, then they are going to want to work with you more, and hopefully they'll give you more learning opportunities, which I've definitely found. But I also think that something key is to, really spend a lot of time on that handover. So what are the challenges that you found in that organization? What are the risks that perhaps might inhibit them from selling? Who are the key stakeholders, and what are their key motivators? But I also think it's important for you to be transparent. And for me, I found it successful for me to be extremely transparent with the AE. And I think it's definitely built trust when I've said, look, I've actually missed this with my qualification. I think it might be beneficial if you ask this question, because I didn't dig deep enough. And I definitely think that's increased my relationship for sure. And I also know that our job is just to get the meeting, pass it to the AE, then they sell it. But I've had like loads of success in increasing my relationship when I've gone a bit above and beyond my role and kind of like been more involved in the process after the demo. So sometimes I'll call a prospect if an AE has been ghosted and not spoken to, just to help pick up the conversations again. Or I'll try and get a meeting with a different stakeholder to help with the selling, or just admin in general, because also people hate admin. I do think every little helps with things like this. And it definitely gives exposure as well. Like, I know eventually when I get into the AE role, I've definitely had so much exposure from what it looks like after my role. And I think that you will be top of mind with the AE, because, you know, when hopefully there is a position to move up in, they won't just be rooting for you, but they'll actually be helping you get there because you've done everything you can to help them in the past. Just a last piece, I think, as we all know, all of our internal stakeholders are like, they have more information in their field than we do. So I've definitely noticed that when I've been trying to get information from other departments, it's not only helped me grow in my SDR career, but also like in the organization. And it's definitely increased my personal brand there too. So would definitely recommend that. But yeah, I hope that it's kind of given you a better insight into why I think it's so important to leverage internal stakeholders. That's me.
That's great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. I thought there were loads of really great nuggets to take away there. And I personally wrote down there's 2 S's in SaaS, and don't underestimate the importance of service. So thank you so much, Molly. That was fantastic. I'd now like to introduce Charlotte Johnson. Charlotte is a team lead for the SDR team at Integrate. And Charlotte's going to be talking about how would you prospect your mum, cut the jargon and be a human being. Charlotte has over 2 years experience as an SDR and recently transitioned to a team lead position. Congratulations, Charlotte. She believes that success lies in differentiating yourself from the sea of sales reps by cutting the jargon, creating emotion and curiosity. Looking forward to this one, Charlotte. Over to you.
So this is a topic that I'm very passionate about, so I hope it resonates with you all as much as it does with me. And at the end of this, I want to share how to incorporate everything I'm talking about into an outreach that I guarantee will land you meetings. So I've not been in sales for that long, but it really didn't take me long to notice a lot of reoccurring things that reps do. But for the sake of 7 minutes, I'm not going to go into all of them, don't worry. So we love to talk like we're related to my good pal Siri or Alexa, using robotic and jargony terms like
bridging the gap and maximizing ROI.
And I laugh, but this is what your prospects are hearing. And honestly, who talks like that anyway? But the sad reality is that this has become the norm. Unpersonalized outreach sounding like robots. So to differentiate ourselves, we need to be using human words and sound like human beings, which is pretty crazy to me because the last time I checked, we were all humans. So what we need to be doing is talking the language that our prospects are using. So things like when they go home to their friends and family, what are they moaning about around the kitchen table? So Kevin Dorsey refers to this as when they go home and they pour themselves a scotch, what is it that they wish that they had? It's not a multi-tiered, triple engaged, groundbreaking, disruptive, innovative tool. They just won't be using language like this. So we need to really think about the language and the terms that they would use. These are the nuggets we need to be using in our outreach. Real human terms, not terms like maximizing efficiency or time-consuming tasks, but instead wasting your life eyeballing a load of Excel spreadsheets. And you can probably hear the difference. One makes you roll your eyes because we hear that language from every other rep that emails us. And the other makes me think, oh crap, I don't want to be doing that. And I wanted to share a real example of when I felt victim to this emotive language. And so I had a temperature a few weeks ago now. And as us Brits do, I Googled my symptoms. And apart from the classic, you're about to die, it told me to get a COVID test. So I went to the website, entered my details, and before you can press submit, it says only continue if you have coronavirus symptoms. Ordering unnecessary tests is wasting NHS resources. Wasting. That term literally punched me in the face, and I felt it all over me. It really made me take a step back and think, I don't want to be wasting resources. And if this is how that term is making me feel, then why aren't we replicating this emotive punch in the face to our prospects? And Beck Holland featured in one of Jason Bay's webinars and asked everyone, do you think your prospects are any different to yourself? And of course, everyone answered no. So if these are human emotive terms are smacking me in the face, then they will have the same effect on your prospects. So I have like 3-4 minutes left, and I wanted to share a really great way with you how you can use all of the above in an outreach that I guarantee will book you a meeting. And to put this into perspective, I booked 3 from this last week. And it's using the LinkedIn voice note feature. And the feedback I'm getting from this is comments like, hi, Charlotte, interesting approach with the voice note. Hadn't seen that done before, which just really emphasizes that we are not doing them enough. And I'm going to take a twist on the emotive language I'm using above, but I'm going to change it into the form of curiosity. And both are equally effective. So what I do is I will physically write out something like this. Hi, first name, I had a quick question for you, ... And then I'll insert the voice note. And this instantly piques curiosity. I don't know about you, but if I got a message saying I have a question for you and there was a voice note attached, my curiosity would take over me and I'd have to open it. So the voice note might sound a bit like, James noticed your post around XYZ. The point you made around 1, 2, 3 really stood out to me. Other sales leaders have experienced ABC. Does this sound familiar? Either way, best of luck with the posts. Looks like they're a massive hit. So this is just an example of a possible structure, but the success I've had with this is honestly huge. And I wanted to make a few pointers about the voice notes. So they should be nice and short, 30 seconds or less is preferred. And it's not a call, so you don't need to introduce yourself. If they're that curious, they can go onto your LinkedIn and find more about you and your company. Then second, relevant and personalized. I used the LinkedIn post in the examples, but you can make it about anything that's relevant to them that you can tie back to your solution and the challenges it solves. And the beauty about LinkedIn voice notes is that you can't mass send them. So each one should theoretically be personalized. And remember what we've spoken about, being human. Pretend you're speaking to your mum. That way you'll cut any jargon stuff. And also don't expect to book a meeting on the back of the first voice note. If they do reply, make it more of an informal chat to build up credibility. So when you are asking for the time, it doesn't feel like an ask, but just a natural next step. And just to note, your first few will likely be a bit rubbish. Mine certainly were, but it doesn't matter as you'll get used to recording yourself the more you do it. And this overall isn't just differentiating yourself from the sea of sales reps out there because you're using a new and upcoming technique, but you're also disarming them because you're not sounding or saying what 90% of other reps are to them. So be different and be a human. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Charlotte. That was absolutely amazing. Some really practical tips there about being authentic that I can imagine everybody can take into their job straight away. And amazing delivery. You've made me feel like I need to up my game now. So I'm really, really excited about this next talk, as we're going to be hearing from Kim Reynolds with the title of Diary of a Cold Call Girl. Love that title as well. Now, the reason why I'm excited about this one is because I remember Kim from her assessment centre when she attended the Venatrix day, and she was an absolute firecracker. In fact, she actually scared me in the group exercise, and I'm sure we'll be hearing some top tips from her now. We placed her at Judopay, which is a mobile-centric payments platform focused on driving business growth through.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, yes, I can. Through seamless checkouts.
Oh, great, having some technical difficulties. So hi everyone, I'm Kim Reynolds and I've been an SDR at Judopay for about 1.5 years now, just under. Today I'm going to share some of my cold calling experiences, tips, and what those experiences have taught me. I'm sure that, like many of you, I initially would try and avoid having to cold call at any cost. I really used to dread it, and I would just picture all the scenarios that it could go wrong, or, oh no, someone might ask me a question that I don't know the answer to, or be really angry about the fact that I even called them, or I will just start mumbling over the phone. So one of the key learnings for me for becoming a good SDR has been putting myself out there and trying all methods of outreach in order to really understand where I'm strong, and not just say, oh, I'm best at emails because I've pretty much only tried emails. I think a lot of people are trying to convince themselves, and I did the same, you know, sales has changed and that cold calling is no longer relevant. But, you know, like Charlotte said, that human interaction is really important, and disrupting someone's day is crucial to getting their attention. You know, we say we want to help them and that we think our product could deliver these results. So we definitely shouldn't view it as disrupting them in any way. It did take me a while to realize this though. But I do believe that being able to pick up the phone and have personal conversations has been one of the things that has led me to be a successful SDR at Judopay and be proud of the meetings and the clients that I've secured for the company. So I'm going to share some of the more challenging experiences that I've faced in cold calling scenarios. This isn't to say that this will happen to you, or that cold calling doesn't work, because it definitely does. But I think, especially for any new sales reps listening in, if you prepare yourselves in advance that, you know, rejection is going to happen, it's not so bad. We do all face it. You know, you're going to be able to go into cold calling more prepared and more accepting of this rejection that you will sometimes face. It's also to show that, you know, I'm not, people think, oh, she must be good at cold calling, she must be a natural. Really not the case. It took me a while. I definitely had some challenging experiences, and it took me a lot of practice to get good at cold calling. So as I mentioned, I really tried to avoid cold calling up until the Venatrix cold calling training day. Really, really valuable day. I felt like I learned so much. And during the Venatrix cold calling training day, for those who have been, you know how it works. You sit around a table with a bunch of other people, and everyone has to cold call in front of each other. Some people seem super confident, some people seem really scared, but it definitely feels like it's by far the worst for you. But yeah, unavoidable. So I started making some calls, and it went really well with everything they taught me. By the end of the day, I'd booked 2 or 3 meetings just within that day. And being the impatient person that I am, I straight away thought, great, rather than sit in front of a computer and type up an email, this is going to be my go-to method. So just to share some of the more challenging calls I've been on, one of the things that Venatrix teach you is how to get through the gatekeeper, which is really important part of learning how to cold call. And you're meant to sound super assertive, and most of the time it does actually work. And it goes something like this. Hi, this is Kim. I'm calling for Robert. Thank you. Great. Up until now, I've been told that I have to make friends with the gatekeeper, which I'm not going to lie, I don't really want to. My colleagues know I only have a very limited amount of small talk in me anyway. So to discover that this could be avoided, perfect. Anyway, the more it seemed to work, because it is a technique that works, the bitchier I seem to get. I just call people Kim for Robert, thanks. Until one day I went into my little cold calling booth and, hi, this is Kim calling for Stephen, thank you. The gatekeeper then just said, 1 second. Obviously I thought, oh, in again, he's going to go grab the right person, until he came back and started screaming, you snake, I know what you did there. I'm pretty speechless on the other side, like, uh-oh, you got me. But he didn't stop, and he just kept going in on me, screaming, you know, I discussed him, that I'm a sleazy salesperson. Is that how I get my clients, by manipulating them? I wish. Joking. And what I wanted to do at this point was to just, you know, I understand that you're not going to be a client of mine, and I just want to freeze and hang up. But I think it is important to remember here, as sales reps, that we are the faces of our companies, and some people are not going to be receptive of a call, and it's important to maintain a level of professionalism and integrity. So in scenarios like this, I recommend that you just apologize for upsetting someone. You know, I'll take you off the calling list and have a lovely day. Another quick experience I had is, of course, when prospecting, we're taught that we are meant to get through to the right person, the decision maker. You know, we find out background information on them so that we can pretend we have the same hobbies and interests as them, and find out what bloody personality color they are so that we know how to approach them accordingly. But yeah, I forgot to check something crucial, and called up a company, asked to speak to Richard. I'm just making up a name. He said, which Richard? Richard Brown, thanks. Richard isn't here. So I'm like, okay, when will he be? When can I call back? Silence. I'm like, Richard passed away. Oops. So who took his role? No, I'm joking. I obviously did not do that. I didn't ask that question. But yeah, that's happened to me twice now, that I've called prospects that have passed away. Obviously, these are relatively extreme examples, and most of the time rejections sound more along the lines of, this isn't something we're interested in, thank you. So it's really not that bad. But naturally, you will have a fear of calling after experiencing things like these. And something that I was taught and able to apply is to detach yourself emotionally. And as funny as these stories may be, before experiencing them, the thought of going through anything remotely similar seemed super, super scary for some reason. And from my own previous unique experience, and I do understand that this isn't necessarily, you know, relatable. I spent 3 years in the Israeli army as the equivalent of a drill sergeant. So I'd be training new recruits, and I still go back for a month every year. So I just spent all of August back in the army. And I think not only did that experience allow me to learn how to put myself in a somewhat robotic frame of mind where I'm able to detach emotion and just get on with my job, but it really taught me to put things in perspective. So without going into too much detail, I was responsible for 18-year-old recruits whose parents are expecting them back at some point in one piece, and circumstances aren't always safe. But not only that, but just even the training and the daily army life, I think really made me more resilient as a person. And the fact that I'm able to keep that part of my life in the back of my mind so that things always remain in perspective has been something that has really helped me deal with rejection and the fear of cold calling. I completely understand that, obviously, you know, that specific experience isn't something that others here would have done. But, you know, that's my unique experience. And I think everyone here will have theirs. You know, and if we think back to our own personal experiences, whether that's being part of a competitive sports team, you know, doing your dissertation, learning a hard new job, a language, all these like challenging experiences that we've all been through that have led us to become resilient enough to understand that we're suitable for sales roles. If we learn how to keep those things that we've achieved or cope with in the back of our mind, you know, we can keep cold calling in perspective and learn to welcome the no's or, you know, the FU's over the phone, knowing that it's nothing compared to things that, you know, you've previously done, and that no way should receiving a no from a stranger who may not be having the best day, you know, affect your mood or your ability to keep doing your job. So my advice would be, care about what you do, be emotionally invested in the positives. When you achieve something, be happy, scream about it. But when someone turns you down, gives you a no, hangs up, you lose a deal you've been working on, think back to something that puts that in perspective for you and think, okay, well, I've dealt with that, so next. So due to this initial fear of cold calling, the way I structure my calling sessions may be slightly different. So I know a lot of people put an hour aside a day, say, great, I'm going to spend an hour cold calling. I know personally, if I was to do this, I'd really be taking my time between calls and just take it slow, so I have to call the least amount possible. What I do is I decide on a number of meetings between, you know, 1 and 3, depending on my mood or how busy my day is, and decide that I cannot stop calling until I hit that number. I could be lucky enough and be done within 15 minutes, or I could be stuck calling for the next 3 hours. But it's a results-focused approach that really works for me. Obviously, we will have different roles and different targets, so keep that kind of number relevant to you. And I'd always kind of leave the cold calling sessions on a positive, so rather than after a rejection, so that I'm not left dreading going back. So I appreciate that I'm talking a lot. So to sum things up, some of you may have read one sales book's Fanatical Prospecting. And one of the things that really resonated with me is that there are only 3 things that we can control. And those are our actions, our reactions, and our mindset. So not only can we not control the reaction of the person on the other end of the phone, so, you know, nothing you can do there anyway, but their reactions should not impact our actions and our ability, you know, to keep calling, to keep trying to close that deal and generate business for the companies we work at. It may sound easier said than done, but I do think that it's our choice, what mindset we put ourselves in and how we choose to react to that no that we get over the phone. So if you choose to call it a day, leave the phone booth, you're probably going to end up picking up the phone ever again. But if you choose to kind of take it on the chin as another no that, you know, realistically, we know we're statistically meant to get at some point anyway. So it's just, you know, that one no moving us one step closer to that eventual yes. Yeah, apologies. I think I've gone slightly over time. So just my 3 kind of takeaways would be, you know, as the faces of our companies, stay professional. My second point would be keep things in perspective, try to emotionally detach yourselves from the rejections. And 3, you know, we can only control our actions, reactions, and mindset. So no point dwelling over things that are out of our control.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Kim. I love that. Next, I would like to introduce Parnell Nash, who's a senior business development rep at Seismic. Seismic, he's in the global accounts team, and Seismic, for those of you who aren't familiar, are market leaders in sales enablement, helping sales and marketing teams to deliver a better buying experience. Parnell's got 2 years of experience as a global top performer SDR, focusing on some of the largest B2B tech and manufacturing companies throughout EMEA. As well as being a standout performer in the business, Parnell is also an exemplar member of society, spending a lot of time outside work doing charity work and mentoring 2 college students wishing to take a career in the tech industry. Parnell's going to be talking about the power of your peers. So over to you, Parnell.
So yeah, thank you. Shabri, James, I really do appreciate the opportunity to speak today. And also to the other individuals that have come before me. I think there's been some key insights that I'll definitely be taking away. So Molly, Charlotte and Kim, I think you've done an amazing job so far. So for my 7 minutes, I'm going to be discussing the power of your peers. Now, when James first approached me, he asked me a question as to why I've been successful during my 2-year tenure here at Seismic. Now, it brought me through a process of reflection, and I personally believe I owe a lot of my success to other individuals that are within my team. So what I'm going to be covering are 4 key points and relating those 4 key points to 4 individuals that are actually at the same level as me. So I want to prove that you don't need to progress or develop your career solely per se by having more senior people involved. I've learned a great deal from the people that are around me. So the first point is going to be around brand. The second is organization. The third is knowledge. And then the final point is going to be around being human. Now, before I jump into these points, a mentor once told me that you should never just adopt someone's personality or characteristics. You should just adapt them, draw on the positive elements and incorporate it into your own delivery. So that's exactly what I've done for these 4 key elements. Now, first of all, brand. When I talk about brand, I really wanted to relate it back to the point when I first joined Seismic. Now, our business in London was identified as a startup within a startup, but I noticed one individual that was known globally, and that was Matthew Burge. He was identified from every BDR across the globe, from throughout EMEA, Asia Pac, America. He had a key relationship with everyone across the team, all the way up to the founders. He developed an internal brand which developed so much respect around him that I wanted to match myself up to this individual and mirror his approach to operating within the business. Now, not only did he develop an internal brand, but he translated this into the external market as well. He would attend literally every single networking event possible. But what this enabled him to do was network with like-minded peers just like us and became a thought leader within the space in a very short space of time. Now, really what I learned from this individual is that your brand is a key element to the success you'll receive within an organization. Now, that is something that he's definitely received, and I've really tried to take that on board and learn from the key elements that he's really, really good at. So the second point is going to be around organization. Now, when I touch upon organization, I joined the business at the same time as Tom Birch. Now, he has been super successful since joining, but he brought with him a wealth of experience from his days in recruitment. Now, he was super focused and results orientated towards delivering a particular result. Now, he would come in and do the same thing week in, week out, and that would be to plan his whole week. That would be week by week, day by day, and hour by hour. He would hold himself accountable to delivering a certain task in his diary. Now, if there's one thing I want every individual to take away is plan your diary out week in, week out. What this enables you to do is be focused towards delivering against a certain activity. Now, that might be a certain amount of time for mapping out accounts, doing email ones, cold calls, LinkedIn messages, or LinkedIn voice notes, as Charlotte mentioned. And it really focuses you towards delivering against a certain activity. Then you have the age-old saying of activity achieves a certain amount of results. And really what I learned from this individual is that focused minds deliver top results. Now, the third point is around knowledge. I owe a lot to Will Cox-Beverley when I actually joined the business, because he's the person that opened the door up for me to come in at Seismic. I've always known this individual to go the extra mile, and I've always paid a close attention to exactly what he's doing. That might be listening to his calls or understanding how he does discovery, anything like that. One thing I always noticed about this person, he had an internal knowledge that was beyond the level of any BDR. he would understand our own technology and our own solution to a technical level, so he could speak the jargon of all of these IT professionals or leaders. Now, this made him extremely insightful in delivering a clear and precise pitch. Now, not only did he do this from an internal perspective, but he understood the external industry by reading things such as annual reports, newsletters, and articles, which enabled him to become a trusted advisor and a credible resource. Now, really what I've learned from this particular individual is that knowledge enables credibility, and I really believe that credibility is key when you're delivering resonant messaging. Now, my final point is relatively basic, but it's around being human. And I really think at this particular time, during these uncertain times, that you have to deliver a pitch or a message in an empathetic way. And there's no person in our team that does it better than Baz Lewis. Now, I've really learned a great deal from this individual because he's super empathetic, compassionate, but persistent in his approach, and is able to gain relationships super quickly and becomes a trusted advisor practically straight away. Now, these are 4 key points that I've learned from 4 individuals, and I've owned them myself. Now, to conclude this all together, I personally believe being a BDR isn't an individual sport. Although your name will be on the leaderboard, it takes a team for you to be successful. And I personally owe everyone and more that I've mentioned a lot. I owe all of these individuals a lot to my actual success that I've had within the business. So I hope every individual can take something away from that brief discussion.
Wonderful, wonderful work. You know, we've had a huge amount of speakers over the last few years, and like, it's really difficult us not being together, having a drink. You know, there's hundreds of us on this, but the quality and the energy. And I think if you take something away from these speakers, I spoke to dozens of those nominated to then decide today's speakers. And there is something about their enthusiasm, their ability to articulate their experience and to promote others in their organization that helped them stood out. So it's incredible, and it's such a shame we can't all be giving a round of applause, but I'm just going to invite all the speakers back. So SDR speakers, if you can come on, we're going to invite some questions. So look, there's over 171 of you on. Why don't you start plugging your questions now? I'm going to kick off in a second with the first question that I'd like to ask. As individuals, once again, amazing job. You know, it is really not easy delivering this when you cannot see an audience and you're sitting in your own home. So huge kudos. It was really, really good from each of you. So the first question is around this personal brand. One of the things that stood out and why I picked up the phone to each of you individuals is that you had a large number of nominations and you're also visible online. So starting with Charlotte, can you just share a little bit about what you do to build your personal brand?
Yeah, good question. I think having a personal brand for me personally is so important. So I'm probably the extreme. I'll do things like I post daily about topics, not just sales topics, but like about things in my life that I think are important to share. But then also for topics for my persona I sell to, marketing, that I think they would be interested in understanding. I think a really good tip for you to increase your network is if you follow the top few leaders from the persona you reach out to. So for, in my case, marketing, if you follow them and if you interact in their posts, just even one a day, the amount of people you will then be able to add and have conversations with just from that alone is quite insane.
Thank you very much. Molly, what about yourself?
My personal brand is more about like internally in our organization. So I try and go above and beyond like in all departments. If anyone needed my like assistance, or I'm one of these people that I'm really bad for saying yes all the time, but I think it's definitely helped me get far in the organization. Yeah.
Awesome. Parnell?
Yeah, I think personal brand relates a lot to me with regards to how I network within the business. I think a key thing for me is about gaining relationships really quickly and early on, but also maintaining them. So I think it goes a long way when you actually keep in touch with people. I think you have to be active in the market, like Charlotte mentioned there, and actually sort of prospect out and reach out to other individuals that are also like-minded peers. So join things such as, like the sales confidence community is unbelievable, and we have things such as the Sales Enablement Society. I think you need to network with like-minded peers and really put your face out there as quickly as possible.
Right, I've got a question here from the chat, and it's around how you deal with your lulls. So obviously, you know, there's some tough days that we've all faced recently. Like Molly, how have you managed to stay on top of things?
I'm one of these people who thinks that positive mindset is everything. Whenever I have a negative mindset, I always find my like however many like meetings I get always decreases. So I always try and have an hour off, brush myself off, and try and find like quick, easy wins that will make me feel better. Because even if it's something that someone that you spoke to a month ago, you just want to catch up, that having that will definitely increases my lulls.
Awesome. Charlotte?
So I'm really lucky that my team are literally my rock. So if I, for example, have a bad call or I'm having a bad day, I'll instantly just Zoom them so we can just talk, because it can be really difficult when you're not in that office situation. And when you usually get off a bad call and you can just turn to the person next to you and talk about it and laugh, but at the moment you're at home, so you have to deal with it alone. So I think having tools like Zoom and just being able to constantly speak to my colleagues is a huge one for me.
Yeah, I'm relatively similar to Charlotte. I think I'm an avid user of Slack, so I will ping someone and everyone on the call will now know that I'll message them saying, are you free? And that's it. I'm locked someone in for 25 minutes and just having a good chat and a coffee. But I think you also need to manage your highs and manage your lows as well. So never take the highs too high. And it is sales at the end of the day. You're going to face rejection. It is tough that you're having to do it alone. But again, use the tools that are all accessible to us. Pick up the phone, call other individuals. And yeah, never to get too down about like a rejection, I don't think.
Amazing. Just for everybody watching, you know, feel free to answer each other's questions. One thing we've got happening after we announce the top 50 in a couple of minutes is that just keep an eye out. There's a networking section after stage. And this is something super useful. We're all in the trenches and we're all on the front lines in terms of the sale. And so hang around after we announce the top 50 and have a couple of chats and make some new connections. You know, we simply don't have a place to have networking events physically. So this is the best opportunity available to do that, because there's a couple of questions that are coming up and each of you can answer those as well. But just a final point from each of you, could you just share, you know, a piece of advice or your best tip or recommendation? It could be related to the talk you've just delivered, or just one final piece of advice you'd like to share the audience. So Charlotte, what's your top tip or best nugget of advice?
I think I'm going to stick with the advice from my talk in terms of being real and being human in your outreach, because honestly, this is going to make you stand out from everyone else. I actually asked to see the inbox of a marketer to just see how it looks like. And the amount of words like efficiency, ROI, pipeline, and all these buzzy terms was just insane. So to differentiate yourself, stop using them.
Amazing. Great advice. Molly?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with mine too. I think people do underestimate how important it is to not only use your own department, but also other departments as well. So I would definitely make sure to always think about what other things you could learn from CS, even product, like seeing what's on the roadmap, for example, so you can get ahead of learning that as well.
Amazing. Parnell, final point?
Yeah, so I'm actually going to switch it. So I'm going to say the power of a conversation. I personally believe having a discussion, a 5-10 minute chat with whoever it may be, can open up so many doors for other individuals, both internally and then externally. So I gained my first ever job by chatting to a CEO on a shop floor. So I'm going to stick with the advice that I've always stuck with, and it's the power of a conversation.
Right, speakers, this has been amazing. Honestly, you know, I hope you've taken a lot from this experience. Everybody that's still on, can you just say well done in the chat? because, you know, they put a lot of effort into this. They can't see you. So a well done or a comment or a congratulations. We're now going to invite Shabri and Elaine back. Speakers, we wish you well. Hang around for the networking. Let's see where you end up on the top 50. Well done.
Okie dokie. So congratulations and thank you everybody for all your nominations. It's been fantastic to read through all the comments, all the feedback and all the great things that you've got to say about your colleagues. Obviously it's based on everybody's votes and it's been a tough decision to come up with the final 50. But it's now our great pleasure to announce. Are you sharing anything, James, or shall I just go for the names?
No, don't worry. I'm back.
Okay, you're back.
Sorry, I've got a laugh. Amazing. Okay, so what we're going to do, just to give everybody a sense, we're going to talk this down in tens and then we're going to count down the final 10. You've already explained this. So I'm just going to click through.
Here we go.
Thank you again for our sponsors, SalesLoft, G2, Venatrix, Aircool, Cognizant, Air, Refract, SalesWorks, Exactly, and SimilarWeb. I'm banging on the door now. This is the anticipation. Get ready to shout out and scream. So let's have the countdown. Who will be this year's top 50 SDR? And now the first 10, Elaine's going to talk us through. Go.
Here we go. So at number 50, it's Jack Cummings from Highbob. Number 49, Lauren Siegel from Conversant. Number 48, Kate Sullivan from Brambassador. Number 47, Max Westward from Rich Contacts. Number 46, it's hard counting backwards, isn't it? Victor Nokolov from Zephyr. And number 45, it's Mariana Leria from Go Cardless. Number 44, Ellen Murphy from Signified. Number 43, Lawrence Chinamunglu from Ometria. Number 42, a personal favourite of mine, is George Brown from Superscript. And number 41, Jack Melvin from SimilarWeb.
Congratulations.
Brilliant. Okay, so number 40, we've got John Sutherland at Refract. Number 39, we've got Dunia Buri from CrowdStrike. Number 38, we've got Lucy Milner from Board Intelligence. Number 37, Tara Huntsman from She Software. Number 36, Reese Miller from Emarsys. Number 35, Sheroz Khan from Streetbees. Number 34, Alga from the Access Group. Number 33, Suraj Tankaria from Conversant. Number 32, Anya Ringerike from Content Squared. And number 31, Stefano Basil from Sitecore. Congratulations, all of you.
Congratulations. And actually ours, number 30, Harry Monkhouse from Dato. 29, we've got Jack Bertilli from Aircool. 28, Georgina Pierce from Modular. 27, Melissa from Vonage. 26, Kevin Capapiro from Brand Ambassador. 25, Emily Page-Jones, who spoke at an event on stage recently from Clean.ai. Cole Ritchie from one of our partners, G2. Alexander from Board Intelligence at 23. At 22, we've got Barvin Jahani from the Access Group. And at 21, our Super SDR from Cluster, Jack Melvin.
Congratulations, everybody, from 30 to 20. We're getting into the top 20 now. The suspense is building. At number 20, we've got Simon Bruce from Exactly Corp. At number 19 is Alex Yates from Go Cardless. At number 18, Shelby Phillips-Goff from Forecast. At number 17, it's Fraser Wood from Nudge. At number 16, we've got Followinka following Coca from Allbound. At number 15, we've got Ellie Twigger from SalesLoft. At number 14, Sophie Johnson from Spendesk. At number 13, James Okenda from Logic Monitor. Number 12 is Charlotte Neal from Reward Gateway. And number 11, Tom O'Connor from Bambassador.
Okay, so well done, everybody who made the list. This is now the top 10. So just as a reminder, we had hundreds and hundreds of nominations. Typically in this 10, these individuals had 10 to 20 nominations, and they were often from leadership. So what we saw is that those that were higher up the rankings this year had more leaders in their organization, recognizing them through detailed nominations. And we then took that data from some of the company growth data that we've got, and also had conversations. So we had phone calls with everyone. And so we're going to count down and share some of the quotes that we were read from the top 10 down to the final one. So Shabri, over to you.
Okay, so number 10, Nia Woodhouse. Nia is an SDR at Refract, and Nia is the best SDR I've had the pleasure of working with. She's great on the phone, writes killer emails, and has the drive, hustle, and attitude to be successful in anything she does. Not only is Nia a top SDR, she's also a great team player, helping others on the team to be successful. I can personally vouch for this. Nia attended one of our SDR workshops last year, and I can personally vouch for how amazing she is. So well done, Nia, well deserved.
Amazing. Congratulations, Nia. Next up at 9 is Ben Flowers. So Ben had a huge amount of nominations from his peers at Perkbox. Interestingly, he was pinned to be a potential speaker today, but I think he got held up somewhere in Europe or Portugal. So maybe next year, Ben. There were lots and lots of quotes, but one individual leader described him as simply outstanding. His emails are unique and absolute fire, and his calls are engaging and valuable, and he's a champion of social selling. So we're going to see more online from him. Well done, Ben.
Fantastic. At number 8, it's Claudia Milne, who's the SDR lead at Yapily. So Claudia was the first SDR to join Yapily and took on a challenging niche market. She has since created and developed our SDR playbook and process, teaching other SDRs along the way to allow them to perform and succeed. Claudia has identified business opportunity and has established our presence in the Italian market. And again, somebody that the Venatrix team can personally vouch for. She attended one of our assessment centres to achieve the role at Yapily and was extremely polished and very professional throughout. So well done, Claudia.
Okay, number 7, Tom Boston from SalesWorks, I'm sure all of you have seen on video on LinkedIn. So Tom was described by one of the leaders as engaging and humorous content on LinkedIn. He used one of his videos to illustrate the necessity of multi-channel approaches when pitching for my current company. It was successful and since invested in SalesWorks. I think you could call that job done. I'd love to have people like Tom in my sales team. Okay, that seems like it's from a customer as opposed to a leader. So Ollie Sharp, you better watch out because I think someone wants to poach Tom. But congratulations, Tom. Fantastic achievement.
Yeah, Tom, he's been a huge advocate for the SDR profession this year, and he spoke at one of our events recently, earlier in the year. In fact, it was our last SDR event that we did publicly, and you can see his videos on YouTube, and I'll share the link in the chat box. So we're now getting close to the top 5 SDRs in the UK. Up next, we've got number 6, and we've got Olivia, who's an enterprise sales development SDR from Convolent. Olivia has been described as an exemplary SDR, demonstrating all the qualities that make the SDR a vital function in any high-growth business. She's smart, tenacious, and hyper collaborative. That's a word that's come up a lot in the final nomination, someone that's collaborative. She goes above and beyond, does more than what her KPIs track, and is a great partner for AEs, fellow SDRs, and the business at large. Congratulations, Olivia. So let's see who is this year's top 5 SDRs. And in 5th place, we have...
She's got a question for you. We heard from her earlier. It's Charlotte Johnson, Sales Development Team Lead at Integrate. Charlie is an SDR boss, a natural leader who works tirelessly for knowledge to ensure the team is growing and performing at its optimum. She's also killing it with her LinkedIn game with daily thought-provoking posts that build her personal brand. Well done, Charlotte. Fantastic.
Number 4, we've got Callum Mcmanus, Senior SDR at Cognizant. Callum has been described as outstandingly professional, compassionate and empathetic, a true team player. He is smart and articulate on the phone. His admin is impeccable. He will always be the hardest worker in the room. An AE will be glad to have his demo, quality over anything else. A true pleasure and a kind person. Congratulations, Callum. Well done.
Well done, Callum. And this is it. In 3rd place, Molly Oven, who we heard today. Molly basically was voted by everybody in her peer set within Peakon, as well as the leadership team. And it's no surprise that she shared so many anecdotes on how she leverages her leaders team. And I think this is a great message for any of you that want to be championed within your function to manage up. She's consistently the top performing rep in terms of meetings, outbound pipeline and conversion rates, always seeking to improve and grow in sales and build top quality pipeline and relationships. Molly, well done.
Okay, number 2, it's Kim Reynolds, SDR at Judopay. So Kim has demonstrated excellence in her role at Judopay by ensuring that her product knowledge is always current. She has excellent organizational and time management skills. She's very personable. Kim's job is not the easiest at times, but she's remained resilient, passionate, and determined. Well done, Kim. Congratulations.
Well done. So this is it, the anticipation. There might be a little bit of a giveaway here because there has been a bit of a theme. So, Shabri, can you kindly announce this year's top SDR in the UK?
Okay, this year, number 1 is Parnell, who we heard from earlier. Parnell has been an instrumental part of the EMEA function for almost 2 years now. He was one of the first people on the ground in London and was pivotal in building the Seismic brand in this region. Well done, Parnell. Number 1 SDR in the UK 2020. Well done.
Congratulations all. You know, there's a lot of effort and work that goes in behind the scenes to put this event together. And there is networking now available. So in a moment, you can head to the networking session and have some conversations and maybe pat a few people on the back. I've just posted on LinkedIn the final list. What I recommend is if you didn't make it this year, is you connect with the individuals in the top 50. Elaine said it, or Shabri said it earlier. You know, while we've recognized 50, because there is only 50, each and every single one of you on this call is committed and to demonstrating your skill set and supporting your business's growth. And simply, the software industry would not be as buoyant as it is without the quality of the work that you do. So congratulations once again for every single one of you in this profession. We're really, really glad that we get to put this together. This is the final SDR event of the year. And once again, thank you to all our wonderful partners. So should we wrap up? Elaine and Shabri, do you just want to say a final point and then we'll head to the networking?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody keep smashing it. I think the SDR awards and everything we've talked about today, all the tips that we've learned, all the creative ways that people are putting into play to continue to work off the back of COVID, to go out there and secure deals has been highly inspiring. I've really enjoyed the event. And now it's just a case of seeing out 2020 and seeing what 2021 brings you all. I hope it's lots of career progression. Yeah, fantastic. Thanks for having me today.
Well done. Shabri?
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was amazing. I think the talks just keep getting better and better every event. Well done to everyone who was featured in the top 50. Good luck to everyone for Q4 and looking forward to seeing you all in 2021.
Yeah, I really, really hope that in 2021 we can all get together and network and have an orange juice, a beer, or whatever you fancy to drink. You know, everyone's been hugely missed this year, but I'm infused by how well engaged everyone continues to be online. So I'm heading over to the networking now for the next 10 minutes. Congratulations for each of you for being featured in the top 50. Thanks again to our partners, SalesLoft, G2, Venatrix, Aircall, Cognizant, Air, Refracts, SalesWorks, Exactly, and SimilarWeb. Enjoy the rest of 2020. See you in networking. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.